when I came with my family, I have a huge family, 5 sisters and a brother, and we all went to Expo 67 in Montreal. My parents were graduate students at Penn, at the University of Pennsylvania. They came from a very simple, poor Jewish immigrant background, but they had both self-propelled through Penn. My dad was teaching at Rutgers, and we went up for Expo 67, like every other family on the East Coast of the United States, I suppose, did. And we all loved it. And one of the things that my parents loved particularly, and I loved too, though of course it's difficult to separate one's own passions from one's parents' passions when you have very passionate parents, was Habitat 67, the wonderful, essentially kind of experimental housing project that Moshe Safdie had designed for the fair. I particularly love the Buckminster Fuller Dome, actually, and the great show of American pop art that dome contained. Not everyone remembers that now. In any case, a year later, they decided to leave America for reasons both complicated and personal and exterior and obvious. 1968, in the spring of 1968, was a very bad time in American life, almost as bad as this time, or perhaps even worse. In any case, this was a time when you could actually get a job as an academic, and they both got jobs in Montreal, at McGill. And actually, my mother got a job at the University of Montreal. And they decided to look into what it would cost to move into Habitat. And at that time, it was a year after the fair, and Habitat was been largely abandoned. There were various jurisdictional things, but people didn't want to live there. They thought it was a big concrete nothing. So they rented an apartment there, and that's where we lived for the next 5 years. And so I passed kind of my crucial adolescent years in Habitat. Bizarrely, the apartment that we lived in was 10, 11, 12, because it was kind of very big because we needed a lot of space with all those kids. And it had 3 terraces, and it overlooked the St. Lawrence River. And for me, the core experience of Habitat, though it's an extraordinary building in all those ways, was living right on the river, living on the St. Lawrence. And at the risk of sounding a little sentimental, I've realized in what I like to think of as my middle age, that my whole life has been built around the spines of rivers. Schuylkill in Philadelphia, the Seine in Paris, and the Hudson here in New York, and the St. Lawrence is the mightiest of all those rivers. In any case, that apartment, 10, 11, 12, after we left it, Moshe Safdie, the architect, took it over. And it's now been turned into a little kind of shrine to Safdieism. It's been preserved as a kind of little museum of Habitat. I know this because I bumped into Moshe Safdie in Cambridge, because he teaches at Harvard now. And he told me this. I hadn't seen him in 40 years. And so my childhood home is now an architectural shrine. You can't say much more than that.